And I thought I would do the introduction with a story. Where's Lori? Lori told me that I should do stories. So
Right here.
okay, so here's a story about my relationship with Cause. 5 years ago, this was right after I went to Japan on the Japanese American leadership delegation. And like others who have mentioned it, it's a very powerful program. And I was so appreciative of the Japanese government and what they had done. And so I had returned to Seattle and spent some time. And then I met Cause, who actually was a little uncomfortable at first because he challenged me. He said, here you've just gone on this wonderful trip, and you're a Japanese American leader, and what are you going to do? Is that all? What are you going to do to promote U.S.-Japan relations? And so he challenged me to go back to Japan with another group. We paid our way to continue our education and outreach between Japanese Americans and the government. So we did that, and again, it was a very powerful experience, and got to know Cause better. And then 3 years ago, after the tsunami and the earthquake, Cause called us again and said, you know what, here's an opportunity for us to try to help Japan. So we went back and we visited the Tohoku area, and in particular, we really focused on the nonprofit sector, like how could we help, and it was just a start in learning more. And so I just wanted to give you a sense of the commitment of the next speaker, because not only did he bring these delegations on our own money back to Japan, but he's a founding board member of the U.S.-Japan Council and is now the senior vice president of the U.S.-Japan Council. So he's, in terms of the United States, perhaps one of the most influential Japanese Americans when it comes to U.S.-Japan relations. Furthermore, Cause is the chairman of the board of the Japanese Cultural and Community Center in Northern California in San Francisco. And some of you know this, but my son works down there. And so I have to make sure I don't upset Cause, because he could have my son fired, right? So I have to tell one more story, because there's also a dark side to Cause. and so as we got to know each other, so Cause is from the Bay Area, and he's a big football fan. And over time, I found out, he's a San Francisco 49er, so that's their pro football team down there. And over the years, I've had to listen to the fact that the 49ers have won 2 Super Bowls. Is that? Yes. It always reminds me that they have this franchise down there that has won Super Bowls, but a long time ago. In fact, probably, unless you were Cause's age, you probably don't remember how long, or the fact that San Francisco won the Super Bowl. And so as you can imagine, the last few years have been very difficult for Cause, because the San Francisco 49ers have not been very successful. And so because he's has been sort of sad about this, we have thought a lot in Seattle, how could we cheer him up a little bit more? And for the Japanese, I just want to share, there's this saying in America, and maybe the Americans can help me, but if you can't beat them, you join them. Yeah, so if you can't beat the other side, then you want to join them. And so we thought it'd be really appropriate to knowing that he was so sad about his football team, to embrace him and let him welcome him to become a Seattle Seahawk. And so where's Jill? Jill, you have to come help. So we have a bag here, and so Cause, please come up here, because we have a special gift for you. Because as Philip mentioned, there's a big conference of Japanese American leaders from all over the country, and Japanese from Japan, who are going to come to Hawaii in October. And it's a very important conference. And Cause has agreed to really show his love towards the Seattle football team by wearing some appropriate gear. And so, Kaz, you don't have to be sad anymore. And so welcome to the Seattle Seahawks fan club. And so without further ado, please give a big Seattle welcome to Kaz Maniwa.
Thank you, Tom. I wasn't expecting that. A nice way to welcome me. I want to thank you all for the opportunity to be able to make some comments tonight, and I especially want to welcome the people from Japan, the scholars, the delegates. I just wanted to say a word about myself. I have been working for US-Japan Council for the past 2 years, and prior to that I was an attorney. I had a small law practice in San Francisco, Japantown. And through my work at the US-Japan Council, I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of people across the country, but especially people in Seattle. And you might not have met all of them, but Phyllis, Jill, Harold, Tom, John, Britt, Elaine, Lynn, Kendi. I wanted to mention this old friend of ours, Kip, who passed away recently. That's just Diane, just a wonderful group of people. And I'm so impressed by the close feeling of community in this area. And, you know, I was talking to Kendi earlier, and she said, you know, we really like each other. We really like seeing each other. And, you know, honestly, the more you work in Japanese American communities, that doesn't always happen. but it's a genuine feeling that people really enjoy each other and care about each other here. So that's really one of the strengths of Seattle. I'm going to speak briefly about the US-Japan Council and encourage people who are not members to become members. A lot of the things were covered by Phyllis and Harold, but I just want to talk briefly that it's a relatively new organization. I think it's just a little over 4 years old. We do have about 250 people now. And in looking at why it makes sense to become a member of the US-Japan Council, I thought about it, and I thought, one, we are very connected to Japan, this community, by our history, by our culture, by our values. And as the world becomes more complicated and complex, and events that happen many miles away still affect us here at home, whether it's a disaster earthquake that happened 3 years ago, whether it's a rising political, economic power of China, whether it's the uncertainty that's going on in North Korea. These things, even whether it's things that brought us closer to Japan through food or culture, sports or people, the organization feels it's very important to be very proactive in our engagement with Japan. Through our people-to-people programs, we have a lot of areas of possible engagement. The first one we're talking about was the Tomodachi Initiative. And this has really become kind of the signature program of USJC. We are focusing on what's called the next generation. Programs that exchange of culture, education, and leadership. And the I-League program is a perfect example of how the Tomodachi program is connecting with USJC members and how they can mentor young people from Japan. Last year we had a couple of groups that came through Seattle through the Tomodachi program. One was the one that Phyllis mentioned, the JP Morgan, where they supported the nonprofit sector. We also had a Mitsui program that came through that was doing a young leadership program training. We brought people to Seattle. So there's going to be a lot more programs that come out of Tomodachi program through Seattle. And we think it's just a great opportunity to become connected and involved with Japan programs. The other thing that I find the most rewarding thing for me in US-Japan Council is really the connection with other Japanese Americans. And it's just a great opportunity to be able to connect with Japanese Americans in fields of government, business, politics, and culture. So we're having an annual conference in October in Hawaii. We expect about 500 people to attend. And it's just a great chance to meet people that you might not have normally been able to meet. in the past, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, we had, at that time, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was our keynote speaker. A few years after that, we had Vice President Joseph Biden as our keynote speaker. Phyllis mentioned that a couple years ago, Seattle actually was the host city for our annual conference. So this year in Hawaii, it's the second year where we're taking it out of Washington, D.C. But it's actually a really great time not only to learn more about U.S. and Japan, but also just to meet people from across the country. You know, I mentioned those people it's rather high level, but I think the important thing is that there are high level engagements with government and business. But I think the idea of being able to work with people-to-people kind of programs, like this I-League programs, is significant. I wanted to mention one other thing that is kind of a new thing that I wanted to talk about. It's called the Governor's Initiative. And what that is several years ago, 3 prefectures from Japan came to the state of Hawaii, and they met with the governor of Hawaii, and then they also did some business-to-business matching. And then this year we're doing the Governor's Initiative in Silicon Valley, and it's going to be at the end of July. And there are 6 prefectures now, and I'm trying to remember them. Hiroshima, Fukuoka, Okinawa, Saga, Hoita. There's one more. They're all bringing their governors from those prefectures, and they're going to bring 10 businesses. And so we're going to do a conference there in Silicon Valley, and we're going to spend a day matching people with businesses in Silicon Valley. And our intention is to bring this same program up and down the West Coast. So we really want to do this next time in Seattle. So first time Hawaii, second time Silicon Valley, and the next one is hopefully in Seattle. So we'll be looking for members to work on this program, and it could be good for business to business, it could be good for relationship building, but it's another good opportunity, I think, could be very significant. You know, in any organization, the effort you put into the organization really parallels what you get out of the organization. The more you put in, the more you're going to get out of it. And so I was thinking about what do we want? And I was thinking about it, so I thought, we want good people. And I define good people as smart, 1, smart, 2, willing to contribute your time. And I'm talking about people that are willing to actually do things, to roll up their sleeves and get things done. 3, an interest in U.S.-Japan, an interest in building community. You know, when I talk about community, I'm talking about locally, nationally, and internationally. And 4, they have to be good-hearted. You know, we want people that work for the common good and not just for their own self-interest. Then I thought about it, and I thought that might be a tough bill to fill with those 4 requirements. So I'm only looking for 3 out of 4. Now, some people might say, oh, I'm not smart, so I don't qualify. So you still got a chance. You got a good heart. So I was thinking, yeah, I better take that one out. You get 3 out of 4, you're good. And I think the main thing is if you're a good person, you know that you care about the connection with Japan. You care about your community here, but you care about the connection with Japan, and you build on that. And if you believe in that, then I'll make it 1 out of 4. So that, you know, I'm going to stay here later and answer any questions, and please feel free. If you are a person that's not a member and you have questions, all the people in this host committee will be happy to answer any questions you have. And we'd like to connect you with our organization. Thank you very much.
So Kaz is supposed to drop by I-Leave tomorrow morning, and I think I might require that you wear that 12th man shirt and not let through the door. So that